HarperCollins and Harper Audio present Big Girls Don't Cry, a memoir about taking up space by Susan Swan. Read by Dawn Harvey. For my pod, Sam, Peter, Jane, Tom, and my husband, Patrick. I was the tall girl, that whole thing. I just desperately wanted to be like the girls I saw, the peppy cheerleaders. So many of us are living in a world where we feel othered. That's why it's so important for us to put our stories out there. Michelle Obama. Forward. Susan Swan's memoir, Big Girls Don't Cry, is a book I myself never could have written. Why? Because I'm short. I wasn't short in 1955. When I was 15, 5'4" was the average height for girls then. Those over 5'8" were thought of as gangly and spindly, giants who found it hard to get dates. Boys were shorter at that time, too. Such unlucky girls were told to stand up straight and not hunch, because they were always hugging their schoolbooks to their chests and walking in a semi-crouch, trying to seem littler than they were. Why would they have wanted that, I think now? To be short? When Susan Swan told me she had once been attacked by a man intent on nefarious acts, but had picked him up and thrown him against the wall, I thought, wow. Only in my dreams could I ever have done that. Kicking in the nuts, yes, that would have been possible for me, but not wall throwing. I have a fairly tall and muscular cousin who'd once been chased into a field in Italy, along with her friend, by two lust-worn guys. "What did you do?" I said. "We hit them on the heads with our suitcases," she said, laughing, "and they ran away." I wouldn't have been able to get up high enough for a headshot with a suitcase. So, of course, I wanted to read about what it must have been like to be so tall, imposing, statuesque, able to wear wide cinch belts gracefully and sport fashion model clothes, maybe even shoulder pads, without looking like SpongeBob SquarePants. Also, with such a height, I myself could have been more insouciant, not prone to looking over my shoulder, or not as much, able to saunter less cautiously through life than us shorties, not having to climb a step stool to get the dishes down off the top shelf. There would have been disadvantages, such as trying to cram oneself into an airplane seat and bumping one's head on the tops of 15th century doorways, but, on the whole— "You should write about that part of your life," I told Susan, "about being so tall." "Who'd want to read about that?" she said. I'd known Susan since, when? The late 70s. When she'd been a hotshot arts reporter and had interviewed me over some book or other that I'd been publishing. She remembers me in a black cape, looking like something out of a Victorian melodrama. I remember her as a blonde bombshell, reminiscent of a prima donna in a Wagnerian opera. We'd struck up an unlikely friendship and kept it up over the ensuing 35 or 40 years, so naturally she was sharing the idea for her latest project with me. By 2018, she'd embarked on an earnest book called Letters to a Young Feminist, a more serious and worthy venture than a reminiscence about her body size, in her view. She was going to explain to the young feminists what the feminist thing had been like back in the 70s, when she'd been a youngish feminist herself, and do some tut-tutting about the reckless and harmful way some of the younger gen had been going about their emotion-driven and fact-averse believe-all-women activism. It is not now and never was true that there aren't any female con artists, fakers, opportunists, liars, narcissists, and psychopaths. There are fewer female serial killers and murderous dictators, however, which is some consolation, I suppose. In this work in progress, of which I was a first-draft reader, Susan had included a little but not nearly enough material about her own earlier life, a life that had been unusual, to put it mildly.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?